All right, welcome back to another episode of The Box and the Basket. And today we are going to be talking about friends and family and acquaintances that have been calling us, texting us, sliding into our DMs, asking us about real estate and how to become real estate agents. Vanessa's made it look so easy over the last almost 10 years. And everybody seems to want to do it now.
Mm-hmm.
I've just started. I mean, I've always been in it with you.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I've always helped you and heard about your horror stories and your successes and cheered you on. And I never really had a desire to do it until recently. So I got my license last year. And so now that they see that I'm in it, I guess everybody wants to do it. So before we get into that, make sure you like, share, and subscribe. And we appreciate you guys following us, however you're getting our content. So, what you got, lady?
Me?
No, the other lady behind you.
So, I think what we should do is cover the basics.
Mm-hmm. Of real estate? Being
like what a real estate agent is.
Uh-huh.
Cover the basics of how you get into it.
Right.
Our little tips and strategies. And
Whoa, potty mouth.
I didn't say shit. I just...
Oh, now you did. Jeez. Little
strategies of how you could become successful.
Mm-hmm.
And then common misconceptions.
Yeah.
So, keep me on track.
All right. I'll try my best. I might come off track too.
All right. So, what is a real estate agent? Obviously, well, not obviously. They can help with buying, selling, investment properties. There's residential realtors and then there's commercial realtors. So, or real estate agents. If you're a realtor, you're part of the National Association of Realtors and you pay a fee to be a part of them. It's kind of like a union, if you will, in a way. So, a real estate agent, a real estate broker, real estate sales associate, realtor, they're all the same thing. So, we're going to use them interchangeably. So, keep up.
Are we gonna use those badges that people buy and pay for?
I have one.
I know, but like the people that have like 10 different things behind their name makes them sound important.
Those are
designations.
We'll get there maybe in another day. We don't need to confuse everyone. But so you help residential realtors is what we are.
Mm-hmm.
And we help you buy, sell, invest in residential real estate. So like where people live, rentals, commercial. Some people think that if you buy like a rental or investment property that it's commercial, and it really isn't. Like we can help with duplexes, triplexes, fourplexes.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if it's like a whole apartment building or gets bigger, it would be commercial real estate, which we do occasionally if it's a small deal, but commercial is just a whole different beast. So you'll have to follow someone else's channel for that.
Maybe I'll get my commercial real estate license.
I know. I've thought about it, but so that's basically it, right? You're helping people buy, you're helping people sell. Sometimes you're involved in helping them find a rental. We don't typically do that, but
Vanessa, can anybody do that?
What?
Sell real estate.
Was that a trick question?
No.
Anybody that's licensed can.
Yeah. So how do you get your license?
Okay, so licensing. You basically just go on Google and you type in what state you're in. We're in Colorado, so you type in Colorado real estate license. And you find a bunch of schools and you pick one. We use Kaplan, both of us.
Yeah. So I signed up for, I don't even remember the first one that I did because there's a few different types of schooling.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a studious person at all. I hate school. I hate sitting in the classroom like doing, classwork type stuff. I hate reading like uninteresting literature.
I think we got the point.
And The first one that I did, do you remember?
Yeah, it's
I like ordered it. I ordered this class and it's like 160 hours. And I like started the first day and I think I got through like maybe a chapter in like 4 hours because I'm kind of dumb and I had to like keep
you're not
rereading.
dumb. Oh my
I had
gosh,
to
you're
keep
so
rereading
dramatic.
all this information because it's literally just like a PowerPoint. It's like death
Mhm.
by PowerPoint. They just put words on a screen and you have to read and retain everything, and then they like expect you to pass this test. So it might be great for some people. That was like about $400,
Mhm.
and I was being cheap, so I didn't want to buy like the $900 one.
That's what you got.
And I was like complaining. I was like, "There's no way I'm gonna do this. There's no freaking way I can get past all these hours just reading this."
Mhm.
And there was like nothing fun about it. And then Vanessa was like, "What class did you do?" Because I'm an independent man and I don't need my wife's help, and I did it by myself. And obviously, I got the wrong
And then,
one.
what do you call it? Disaster strikes.
Yeah.
Should have
So
asked your wife.
I was complaining about this, and she was like, "What class did you do?" And I was like, "This stupid class that just does words." And she's like, "No, like do Kaplan. Kaplan, they do. It's like live instruction, like recorded live
Yeah, they
instruction.
deliver the content via video.
Yeah, it's like you're sitting in a classroom, like it's like interactive.
Yeah.
And it was great. Like they go over the PowerPoint, they explain points to you. I'm sure they get the same questions all the time, so they like cover the frequently asked questions on each chapter, and then you have to take like a little quiz on that chapter in order to go to the next one. So it's like you're actually retaining the information. So I love that one. That's what I did. That's the 20 people that have hit us up. I've like recommended and sent them the link to the same one that I did. So
Yeah.
that's great.
It'll vary where you're at, like what state you're in, but basically, they have college courses as well, but you don't have to do like rarely ever do people sign up for college and do it.
Yeah.
But basically, you sign up, you take the test. You can either do the reading one, you could do the video one where it shows you like videos and explains everything, and then they have in-person classes as well. So you choose one, and basically you have to complete 160 hours of state licensing information and then national licensing information.
Right.
So
which the national part is so easy.
for
The
you,
state
don't speak for everyone.
It's common sense. It's like ask you if you're pulling up to a red light, what do?
You attempt to.
Not you specifically. You're a terrible driver.
I take offense
but
to that.
The national one's like common sense stuff.
So I took the test a long time ago, and I'm a good test taker, and I thought it was both of the parts were easy. So listen to him if he says the national is easier.
Yeah, the
He's
state was
probably
hard.
right. So you go through it. 90% of what you learn, you will never use again. So it's kind of like
how much?
90%.
You think so?
Yeah.
That's fair.
What do you think? You just took it. What do you think you've used out of your course?
Not much, honestly.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Again, this is one of those things where you listen to your wife. So you do that, and then it's kind of self-paced. Are you getting pissed because I'm kicking you?
You keep kicking me.
Well, Zeke is gonna have to cut this out, our editor. But
nah, we're good. We need to put a wall in the middle of the desk so you stop.
That's extreme.
Stop
I need to stretch my legs.
Stretch them that way.
I can't, because then everybody's gonna see my slippers.
Slippers.
So you do that. This is like 10 minutes. We're not even through the basics. So you do that, and then you schedule your test. It's kind of self-paced, so it's not like you finish, and then you have to take the test right away. You can study, and then it's your responsibility to schedule the state test and the national test. You do the testing, you pass or you fail.
But don't wait too long because then you're gonna remember or forget everything.
Yeah. So we suggest that you try to do it in like a short amount of time so that you don't forget the information. Here it's 160 hours, so it took us about 3 to 4 months to complete that, right? Mm-hmm. Some people it takes 6 months, some people it takes 2 months, just depends on what's going on in your life. Obviously, if you have all day and you don't have kids bothering you, you might get it done quicker than if you're working full time and you're a mom or a dad or whatever. So you do that. Hopefully you pass. If you don't pass, you have to check with your
You
state
got this.
how many times you can retake the test. But there is a limit on it. And I think it starts like telling you, okay,
Go
now
back
you
to
have
school.
yeah. So basically you finish 160 hours, you take the test, you've not passed the test. And now kind of the business part starts.
The hard part starts.
Yeah. So you go to your local real estate board and you register with them.
It's online.
You can go in person, online, whatever.
Who does stuff in person nowadays? I gotta leave my house.
I'm just
no,
trying
thanks.
to deliver the information to these people.
Sorry, my bad.
So you do that. And then usually there's if you want to be part of your MLS, which we suggest, MLS is multiple listing service where, your other agents in your area input their listings or homes for sale, and they have their buyers looking there. So it's like a a local database of listings for sale, rentals, and everything else. So we input everything there. When we have a buyer, we pull homes and inventory from there. So that's where you sign up. Here, it's $50 a month. And then yearly, there's another fee. And I need to check what it is. It just comes out, so I don't even know.
Paid it.
I think, of course, I've paid it. It is $650 a year. So $50 a month times 12 is $600. Plus the $650 is $1,250. And then you also have E&O insurance, which is errors and omissions insurance. So if anybody sues you, while you're, if the real estate deal goes bad, or if somebody's just sue happy and they want to sue you, you do need insurance to be able to have your real estate license. And that's usually about, depending on how much coverage you want, like anywhere from like $300 to $600. So we're at close to $2,000 now, not counting
a year.
Yeah. So that's once you pass the test. Initially, you have to pay for your course and pay for your testing and pay for your materials. So it's about $1,500 all together, depending. It could be a little bit cheaper depending on what you choose. But now we're at $1,500 plus $2,000, so $3,500.
Plus your whole new wardrobe because you got to look good. And you got to pay for photos, professional content. Photos.
Yeah, you should.
Yeah. So it's a little pricey to start, but
we'll get there. So you don't have to do all those things, but the basics, you're at about $3,500. And I'm forgetting something else. What am I forgetting? Oh, you need to do a background check. So there's not a lot that they will prevent you from being a realtor, but if you have like charges of like fraud and like
felony
stealing money from people, then you're probably not going to be allowed to be a realtor. So yeah, background check and fingerprinting is also part of it. So now you've taken the test, you've passed it, you've signed up to be a real estate agent.
Congratulations. I knew you had it.
Yeah. So now in Colorado, you cannot be on your own as a real estate agent for the first 2 years because you have no idea what you're doing.
Like a little baby.
And you need basically like a mentor or, I don't know.
Somebody to take the liability for you.
That's not what that is. But you need to hang your license under someone for the first 2 years. And honestly, a lot of people continue hanging their license under someone else. So how it works is there's a brokerage. So like Remax, Coldwell Banker. Those are like the big names, right? So just to kind of explain it, they are the brokerages, and then you hang your license underneath them. So you would be, I don't know, John Doe, realtor with Keller Williams, and they would be responsible for you. Now, if you wanted to do a team, like Ricky and I are the Marquez group under Colorado Real Estate Group. So my business partner, Susanna Haney, owns Colorado Real Estate Group. But then under her, I'm the managing broker. And then under me is Ricky, for example, and our other agents. So I manage those agents. So there's several layers, but in the first 2 years, you're just under a brokerage. You could brand yourself as your own business, as I think you should.
Mm-hmm.
But you always have to disclose like which brokerage you're with, so that if something goes wrong or somebody, the public needs to know what brokerage is responsible for you.
Mm-hmm.
So this is where
this is the hard part.
Get tricky. So a lot of people think that when you get your real estate license that you're interviewing for a job and that you hope you get a position. Like even for me, so my mom's a realtor in Florida, but when I got my real estate license, I kind of I knew better, but in a way I was like, well, I hope they take me. But I would say 80 to 85% of brokerages
will take anybody.
You're interviewing them. So what can they offer you? How much of your commission are they going to take? What's the support like? What's the training like? So there's a ton of questions that you should be asking. And it's not so much that you're being interviewed, it's that you're interviewing them to see if they're a good fit. Now, in the beginning, that's a little bit hard because you don't know fully yet how you're going to build your business, most likely. Like most agents kind of stumble upon it or figure it out a little bit after. So that's why we're going to give you our, what are we going to call it? Our secret sauce. Our secret real estate sauce.
Yeah.
So the number one thing I think for us, it usually comes down to money. Like we're very self-driven, self-motivated people. So I want to know at the end of the day, if I'm away from my family, what's going to make me the most money. In the first 2 years, there's what's called commission splits. So say, for example, you sell a house you have a buyer, you sell them the house for $500,000. And for example purposes only, the commission is 3%. So that's $15,000. The $15,000 goes to the brokerage first. And then from there, it gets split up to you and the brokerage. So in the beginning, it's not uncommon that the brokerage takes, for example, 50%, 60% of that commission. So for easy math purposes, let's say they take 50%. So you're with Keller Williams. Keller Williams keeps $7,500 and you get $7,500. Then out of your $7,500, you should put away money for taxes, usually 20 to 25%. Just put it away before you even think about it. Like anytime I calculate my commission on something, I multiply it by 75%, which automatically takes out the 25% for taxes, because the last thing you need is to make this money and then you owe the IRS $50,000 next year because you didn't put away money for taxes. Most won't listen to that, but I will tell you that I told you so.
Yeah.
So in the beginning, like we said, you're looking for what is your split going to be. You're not going to avoid the fact that in the beginning, you're going to pay
a
lot to the brokerage because you took your course, but you know nothing else. You don't know how to
write a contract, how to negotiate, what to look for in a house.
Mm-hmm.
So
you're going to be relying on them heavily, and that will be very time intensive. And
you got to think the person that's training you up is taking time out of their career to teach you the way, basically.
Right.
So that's why they're taking such a big cut in the beginning.
Mm-hmm. So when you're interviewing brokerages and they're telling you about the splits, that's one of the things you should ask, like how much am I going to be paying you out of my commission? And what are they providing for it? So if they're kind of like, well, we're going to take 50%, but you're not going to have anybody assigned to you to help you. You're going to have to send in an email request when you have a question. That might not be a good fit for you unless you have someone else mentoring you. So the biggest thing is asking about the splits. Can you move up and split? Do your splits start over?
Oh, yeah. Let's talk about that.
This was...
So Vanessa started with like a smaller company, kind of like a mom and pop. And we're still with like a mom and pop. We like the smaller family oriented like atmosphere, not like these huge companies where people walk by each other and don't even know who they are. But
to be fair, like they work, right? We just are not those. It doesn't work.
Yeah. And so she has always done really well, and she's always excelled in the field. And so she had a lot of companies recruiting her. And this one specific company that we won't mention uh kept recruiting her, but like wouldn't send you the contract, and like
Mhm.
wouldn't send out the contract, just telling her everything that they would do for her and promising her the world, but would never send the numbers on paper. And so finally we got it. And these people they start you off at 50-50, even how experienced and how well she was doing at the time. Let's say she started January 1, she'd be on 50-50. She sells X amount of like homes.
Usually it's by volume. So
Yeah,
like
so
say
like
2 million.
yeah, so she
Yeah.
sells $2 million in homes. Then she gets bumped up to like 60-40, and then sells another X amount of million and bumped up to like 70-30. I think you max out at like 85-15 or something.
Mm.
Um, so it's still a lot of deals to go on, but then, January 1st of the following year hits and she resets back to 50-50. So it's like a pyramid scheme. They're just trying to make money off of anybody and
Listen,
everybody they can. So be
yeah.
careful, interview the companies, get timelines, get stuff in writing, see the contract and read over everything. Don't just sign because they're telling you what's in the contract.
Mhm.
Actually read it and make sure. You're going to be in real estate, so you're going to be reading a lot of contracts. Make sure that you're actually reading and comprehending what's in them.
Yeah. There's so many. I mean, there's some that, like, there's a local brokerage here in town that spends a ton of money on like website advertising and like getting leads. I think the website cost alone is like $300,000 a year.
No.
So their agents are super busy, and every deal that they get from the brokerage's website is a 50-50 split. No matter how experienced you are, no matter how many deals you've done, it stays 50-50 because they have to offset that cost of the leads that are coming in
Right.
for that agent. So, it might be worth it to you. For me, it wouldn't be because I'm doing double the amount of work to get the same amount of money. So, like,
With them, not
right, if I had 100% split, like I get 100% of my commission, and I just pay like a transaction fee per deal, like say $500, then I'd have to sell 2 houses, do 2 times the amount of work, be away from my family 2 times the amount of time to get the same amount of money. So that didn't work for me. It might work for someone else. If you're not very motivated in, getting leads, or aren't very, very good at marketing and are going to need help with that, then that might be something for you to do.
No.
Now, there's so many different ones that we could discuss, but we don't want to take up all day. So if you have any questions, you can always send us a message. Under our link tree is like how to contact us. We're both on IG. Mine is Vanessa Marquez CO, and his is Ricky Marquez CO. So
Yep.
We're going to try to move on to the next part, which is kind of goes hand in hand with the brokerage. Whatever they provide you is great. Like, they're going to tell you, oh, we're going to do this for you for marketing. We're going to give you a website. We're going to give you a CRM, which is like a customer relationship management system. So like a database software system where you can house all your leads. And then basically they're going to try to woo you and tell you, we're going to give you this, this, and that. But really you have to kind of boil it down a little bit to the basics of what do I really need, because they could have great like marketing, like on paper, like flyers and this and that, but do you really need it?
Yeah.
And also, I think something to be aware of when they're giving you an email address and they're giving you a website and they're giving you this and that is that you are kind of tied to them. So if you outgrow the brokerage and you now want to go out on your own, or you want to switch, they own your email address, they own your contacts, they own all the leads that are in that system. And if you're with a good brokerage that does the right thing, they're going to give you access to everything, but that doesn't always happen. So I, for example, when I first started out, I was getting leads to a system that wasn't owned by me. So once I had become more experienced, I kind of figured out, okay, now I'm going to do it myself. So I own my website, I own my email address, I own the leads that are in my database management system. And no matter where I go, I'm still going to have that. And no matter what brokerage I go with, I still own everything. So it just makes it an easier process. And I'm not at risk of losing half my business because, they now own everything.
Right.
Oh, I thought you were going to say something. Who's calling me? 303. So with that, another piece is, are they going to record all of their sales under like the big team? Or are you going to be able to record the sales under you? So basically, are you building their business or do you want to build your own business?
Yeah.
So for me, I've always been with brokerages where I can track and report all the data and all my sales under my name and under my license, where there are teams where, John and Janet are on a team and they have 10 blah, blah. They have 10 team members, and whatever those team members sell also gets tracked under them. So that's a marketing thing. They can now say, well, our team sold 300 houses. Well, yeah, you also had like 30 people on your team. So it's not that impressive really, but it just helps them with their numbers and helps them grow their team and their overall, bottom line. Because if somebody leaves off their team, they still have all these great numbers and all these reviews and everything. So that is another thing that I would kind of, how is it going to get tracked? What are you going to pay me? What can you give me? But like I said, don't get overwhelmed. If you have questions, you can let us know.
Yeah. So
moving on would be, what's the next thing I told you I wanted to talk about?
There's some brokerages where you'll have to pay a fee. Mm-hmm. And sometimes it's like at a certain brokerage, you have to pay like a desk fee, mm-hmm. but then you have to ask for permission to use the desk, mm-hmm. or you have to like schedule a time when you can use it. And sometimes they're not available. So if you're like paying to work there, it's not always that great, mm-hmm. I guess. Go ahead.
So some brokerages, there's so many. Literally, it could be a whole topic on its own. And maybe we'll do that if there's a demand for it. But on top of the commission splits, there are fees. Like you could have a fee for every transaction you close. You have to pay $200 or $300.
Right.
Every month, you have to have a desk fee for, I don't know, $100, $200, $300, $500, whatever. So ask if there's additional fees. With the bigger names, there's a split that you have at that brokerage, and then there's a franchise fee for like the national corporate name, like Coldwell Banker, for example, Keller Williams, Remax, all those big ones. There's usually also a franchise fee that never goes away. Sometimes you have a franchise fee, but it caps at like 10 or 12,000 or something like that. So just a lot that goes into it. Ask a lot of questions. Yeah. Like this is not a friendly meeting. I mean, you don't have to be rude, but you need information. Like dig a little bit deeper.
Like, why am I paying this? What is this fee? Mm-hmm. Why do you need this from me? Why do I need to be at this meeting if it's not going to be informational? Yeah. Why do I need to go to these happy hours if we're not getting business from it?
I've never had a problem because I generally don't trust anyone. Yeah. So like I go into everything with like a little bit of
suspicion.
Yes, that's the right word. So I'm always asking questions. I'm always like, oh, but is that true? So Sorry for anybody that's been on the other end of that. It's nothing against you. It's just how I operate. But
just get it in writing.
Oh, yeah, for sure. But people that are easily wowed by like a nice office and this is the training that we do, it's easy to get like swept away by that. And then you're, 1 year, 2 years in and you're like, what happened? Yeah. How come I'm not making any money?
We all go on vacation together. Like, you're not getting business from going on vacation with a bunch of realtors.
So I'm just not like, I'm not a networking person. I don't like hanging out with people because of obligation. Like, I want to spend the time that I have with the people that I want to hang out with. So for me, like going to all those realtor events, it can be beneficial, but I go to like the bare minimum that I have to, because to me, unless you're like a real estate agent and I really enjoy hanging out with you, chances are I'm not going to hang out with you because you're not going to buy a house from me. So what are we going to talk about? We're going to bitch about the market? That's not productive. I mean, I'm friendly, and when I'm in a transaction, that's how I get to know people and that's how I network. But beyond that, you just really don't need a bunch of happy hours with other real estate agents to become successful. To me, it's a waste of time. Like, what could you be doing that can make you money? Does that make you money? No. So then maybe you shouldn't be doing it. I have now stepped down from my soapbox. So, tips for new agents. We had an Instagram message where a friend of mine that I work with in Arizona said she just got licensed. Congratulations. And she wants tips for new agents. Hoping that you have already chosen a brokerage. But I think my top tips would be to just figure out how you're going to build a business and treat it as a business. Like, it's not a hobby, it's not a side job, it's your business. You can't rely on your brokerage to give you a business plan. You should be going into it with a business plan and the open mind of, okay, like, I'm kind of throwing spaghetti on the wall and I'm going to see what's going to stick, and constantly, maybe monthly or quarterly, reevaluating that and seeing, okay, this worked, but this didn't work. How can I like hone in on what I'm good at, what's working for me, and how I can kind of refine this business plan. So I think that's the number one thing. And consistency, and just not giving up. If it's so easy to give up, I think the statistic is that 87% of realtors give up or get out of it in the first 1 to 2 years. So the reason that is because it's not like you're selling like hair products or candles. You're like, this is a huge investment for people. No matter how many people if they're in a house and they don't want to move, they're not going to move. It's not, a $40 candle or something like that they're like, okay, I'm going to support you, so I'm going to buy this candle from you.
Right.
If they don't want to move, they're not going to. So I think people think, oh, well, I know a lot of people, so I'm going to do fine. That's not how it works. You kind of have to look outside of that, because your friends are your friends. They shouldn't feel like they have to buy from you. Our friends are our friends first. And if they use us, great. Some of them, if they don't use us, I will be offended. But most of them, I'm like, okay, that's fine. Like, you can use someone else. So you shouldn't always rely on them. And so building like your book of business and getting leads and converting them and finding the people that are in the market to buy and sell is the hardest part. So when that doesn't happen in the first 3 to 6 months, 9 months, a year, people give up, because you're doing mundane tasks every day that are getting you closer to your goal. But because you're not seeing an immediate return, it's really hard to stick with it and not give up. I'm sure you have some examples of me doing that.
Every year.
Up until a certain point.
Yeah. Every year, like her first 5 or 6 years, it was like when the winter months would come, she wanted to get a part-time job somewhere. She wanted to go.
Freak out.
Yeah. And I always told her, like, just ride it out. Like, it always comes in waves. There's always going to be ups and downs, especially in a sales position. Like, you're going to have dry spells, and you're going to have somewhere you're drowning. You can barely keep your head above water. And so I would always remind her of that when she was busy and bitching and complaining about, all these deals that she has going on and all this stuff that's happening. I'm like, remember this in like 3 months when it starts getting cold and people start, slowing down.
Do you know what I actually did? So when I had like those days where I'm super busy and I'm like inundated with stuff, I actually started writing in my calendar. I had a super busy day. If you're not busy, don't freak out. And I have it repeating every year. So several times throughout the year, I have that reminder. I don't need it anymore. But for me, like if you're an anxious person or like an overthinker, over planner, I would have a great year, right? Like would make double sometimes of what I thought I would make. And then I would still doubt myself. That's like probably a topic for another day. Just
Yeah.
like I never think that I'm doing enough, even if I already exceeded my goals. So
Right.
just don't give up. If that's what you want to do, then do it. If
Mhm.
you feel like everything that I have to do to get to this point is not who I am, then maybe you need to reconsider it. But if you're just giving up because what you're doing is not paying off, then you should probably keep going and maybe tweak it. Like there is a formula to it. My first broker, Scott, would always tell me it's a game of numbers. I'm like, okay, whatever. But it really is. Like if you track your information, or you, like what you're doing, what your tasks are, what you're putting into the business, if you track that and then track how many leads are coming in, how many you're converting, you can quickly figure out what's working for you and what's not working for you.
Yeah.
So, you know, there's so many things that you could do to get clients. Open houses was a big one for me when we first moved here because I don't like cold calling. I'm good in person. Like if I get to know someone, it's usually much easier for me to convert them as opposed to calling someone. And I just didn't like it. Like for cold calls, you have to call them several times, sometimes 10 times in like 2 weeks to get them to like respond to you. So open houses, networking, like Facebook groups, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook. I already said Facebook.
Just all the socials.
All the socials for sure. Some people do like farming with mailers, hosting different events in your community. What else? Leads, like buying leads through Realtor.com, Zillow. I'm not a fan at all, but if that works for you, good for you. It's very expensive. You will probably have to get your team lead or brokerage to pay for the leads and then they give them to you because I mean sometimes it's like $3,000, $4,000, $10,000, $20,000 a month to get the leads. For me, that's not in our business plan. I hate them. I've tried it. Does not work for me at all. But buying leads, you could do Google PPC, you can do Google local service ads, which are much cheaper and more affordable. But there's several ways that you can get leads. You just need to identify like, okay, this is what I want to do. And it should be probably, I would say in the beginning, 3 to 6 maybe different sources. And then as you're like narrowing down, like this works, this doesn't, you kind of add and subtract, like this worked, but this didn't. And really, I mean, the internet is like an open book. You can, there's so many, if you just Google, how can I get real estate leads? How can I get clients?
YouTube it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I mean, I think it all comes down to you and your drive and your hustle, how much you actually want it, because you're always going to get out of it what you put into it. So we've had a few friends where they get their license and they just don't put in as much work or don't see those immediate results and they kind of give up or they don't take it seriously. I think a lot of the people that have hit us up about getting the real estate license, they want to do it part-time and it's not a part-time job. Like it's, I've been telling people since I left the police department, I'm like, I've worked more now than I ever did as a cop because it's just like you're glued to your phone, you're glued to your laptop. You have to, you know, accommodate other people's schedules. So you can go out in the morning, in the afternoon, in the evening. It's really no telling. It just depends on the client. So the more productive you are and the more you put into your business, the more you're going to get out of it, the more success you'll see. So just depends on how much you want it.
Yeah. For misconceptions, I would say the biggest thing is that people are like, well, I'm not motivated. You do not need motivation at all. You need a plan. You need to know like, okay, this is where I want to get my clients from. This is what I'm going to put into it. And this is like kind of my plan of action to get me there. And you just repeat those things over and over and over again. If they're paying off, great. If not, then you need to reevaluate. But really, like, going to see motivational speakers, doing all that, that's great, but that stuff lasts for like maybe a week, if that. And it doesn't, you cannot rely on motivation at all. You need consistency. And that is really it. You need consistency and like kind of an openness to trying new things and figuring out what's going to work for you. And once you have figured that out, really the sky is the limit. As much as you want to work or put into it, that's as much as you're going to get out of it. Yeah. So it really, once you've kind of figured that out, and that's the hard part because personalities are different. Like I could never door knock. Door knocking is where you go like around a neighborhood and you knock on the door and you're like, hey, do you have any real estate needs? Do you know anybody that would want to buy or sell? For me, I would rather die. And Ricky's like, I don't mind doing that. Does he do it? No, because I have other funnels already in place of where we're getting leads from. But
I'll probably call the cops on me.
For sure. So you kind of need to be aware of who you are, dig a little bit deeper and figure out what's going to work for you.
Like you are who you are. Nobody's going to change. I can give you the best speech in the world and motivate you for however long that speech is. But once you leave from wherever you're getting this information, you're still who you are. You're not going to change unless you want to change. So just work to your strengths. Know what you're good at. Know what you're bad at. We're really good with talking to people. We can have a conversation and hold a conversation with anybody. But we're not those like super giddy people that you're going to see out there, you know, running the streets, holding up a sign and doing all kinds of crazy stuff. So
we're just honest also to a fault. And blunt. So some people love that. And we are so lucky. I think like 95% of our clients I would hang out with every day.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, we don't have time to do that and everybody lives their own lives, whatever, but we kind of attract the people that we want to work with by being ourselves. So don't be someone else. Like I show up to jeans sometimes. I show up sometimes in yoga pants and people know like that's not gonna, the pants she's wearing is not gonna change how hard she's gonna work for me. Some people don't like that bluntness or that, you know, directness and they need sugarcoating. So we're not the agent for them. And it's such a like personalized experience that if you're looking for an agent, you should really be able to trust them and have a good experience and kind of mesh personality wise. And the same way it goes the other way around. Like you should be able to provide a service to your client and be able to provide a good experience. Now, some people force it, and usually when you force it is when shit goes wrong.
Like so, I've had a couple clients where we've gone out to go look at houses, and they've been like, because I always go into a house and I look for all the bad, because everybody's gonna come in and be like, oh, this is so nice, and I'm like, yeah, but look at that crack there, like it's, you know, settling, or there's this in the kitchen, or there's a leak under the sink, or, you know, the background's terrible. So I always go in looking for the negative just to kind of counterweigh the good that they're going to see. Because, I mean, any agent can go in there and be like, yeah, you know, it's a great layout. It's great for the family. It has 4 bedrooms. It has, you know, X amount of bathrooms. Like, everybody already knows that. But what is the ugly stuff? Like the furnace is cracked, so we need a new furnace. The water heater is about to go out, so you might want to ask for that. Or maybe not get into this house because you're going to have to replace it. So it's just, I always go into each house just looking for all the bad stuff to point out, just so there's no surprises later on down the road when they move in the house. I'm like, hey, you never told me about, you know, this bathroom over here or whatever it may be. So we're pretty blunt. I think we talk people out of houses more than we do into them. But I mean, I'd rather show, like we've said before, 100 houses as long as you find your right one and know what you're getting into, rather than buying your first house and then you hating it or regretting it later on.
I mean, and to that, like we tell them, we advise them, and then at the end of the day, it's their decision. So we're still going to support that either way, but they're never going to guess like, was this a good decision or a bad decision? I think as far as misconceptions, the biggest misconception that I think exists is that this is a sales job. And in a way, you are selling something, but you're not really, it's not your job to sell a house. Like when you go to a car dealership, it's a little bit different, for example. But for a house, I truly believe like whoever my client is, they're going to walk around and it's either going to work for them or not. They're going to get a feeling usually. And they're going to know if it works for them or not. I'm there to advise them. I'm there to kind of take off their rose-colored glasses. But they're either going to buy the house or not. There's nothing that I can say or do to make them feel better about the house in most cases. I mean, sometimes like if they're not sure about something, like rules or something, that's a different story. But really what you're selling is yourself. So you're selling your personality, how you're going to give them a good experience, how you're going to problem solve for them, how you can be a benefit to them. And they're either going to appreciate that and use you, or they're not going to need that from you and choose someone else. And that is okay. You're not going to be everybody's agent. You can't be. Some people need different personalities, different strengths, different weaknesses, where it's just not going to work out, and that's okay. Every deal that I have lost for the better. Like it would have probably been a nightmare. So
just be you. No need to put on a front or a show for anybody, because it's always your true colors are always gonna come out. And it's not saying that's a bad thing, but some personalities just don't clash, and some others do. So
that was a long one. We're probably gonna end it here. There's a ton more we could talk about. If there are any topics, questions that you have specifically,
let us know in the
please
comments.
drop us a comment, message us, call us, email us. Whatever way you want to contact us, we're available to answer your questions. And we'll be back in.
Thanks for watching. We appreciate y'all. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and let us know how we're doing in the comments, whether it's good or bad. We'll try to fix it. All the bad. Appreciate y'all. Have a good night.
Bye.